Single parent. My wife and I, married 13 years with 3 kids under 10, have been at odds over the last month. She basically blew up at me saying she feels like a single parent, says I'm a great provider, but when I home, I'm checked out. She is partially correct. We've had this talk many times over the years. In my mind, I was doing the right thing. But in hers, her spirit was closing and her heart was hardening. I love her very much. I have apologized, asked God to forgive me, and I've accepted my downfalls as a husband and father. I made a promise to make it better and have. She's even stated she's noticed a good change. She just can't seem to understand why it's taken me so long. So, as these weeks pass, I continue to work on being a better man to my family. However, her anger still persists. Not only that, but she is also still cold, distant, and unaffectionate. I have noticed over the past few weeks she's been spending an excessive amount of time on her cell phone, buying new clothes and stuff, working out a lot more, and other personal beautification things that haven't been a priority until recently. She denies an emotional or physical affair, but my mind wanders. Where do I start to see if she's actually found someone else since she denies it? I was complacent, a bit selfish, and thought everything was fine. It wasn't until she threatened to leave that I put 2 plus 2 together. Totally my bad. Her phone is not password protected, and she always leaves her email open. Doesn't mean there's not an email account or app one don't know about. The mention above sounds right. She's kind of doing a 180 on me. If so, I surrender. I admit my faults and ask for forgiveness. Just praying she can accept and I can prove to the man I am. There is a troubled past on her part of divorce, infidelity, and abandonment from a parent. Likely some of this anger directed towards me stems from her past. She wants no affection for me. I feel like a roommate. I'd love to do date-type stuff, but she won't reciprocate any affection I give. She is not a stay-at-home mom. She has a job and makes good money. So, we have more money than we need? I can tell you it does not buy happiness, that's for sure. She has said she wants to work on it, but won't see a counselor yet. I've spoken to some of my wise family members about us and admitted my faults in this. They all say she has a resentful heart and she is discontent. They essentially tell me to do a 180 on her, then she'll realize how good she has it, or she'll leave. We have gone out a few times with the kids. We have fun, but the conversation is very light and nothing to do with us. Usually about the kids. She has not said she wants to separate or divorce. She has said she wants to salvage us, but needs time to bring her wall down. As another poster said, she does have me trained. She says jump. I say how high. I always thought I was a good husband and father, but I apparently didn't meet her expectations over the last 13 years. I'm a flawed human, but my heart is good. Reading back on some of these posts, I'm thinking she's finding reasons to justify being angry at me. Give me the blame to justify other behavior, whether it's in physical or an emotional affair. Kind of making sense now. I gave her everything she wanted. Let her go out when she wanted. Let her buy what she wanted. Told her how beautiful she is and how much I loved. Over and over. All that has seemed to have gone by the wayside. My wife is hot. I know she gets attention from other men. She just will never admit it. Weeks later, just a quick update, her Facebook and email are no longer open. They've actually timed out and she hasn't relogged because she primarily uses her cell phone. She is still very distant, unaffectionate, and would rather go out with girlfriends than be around me. She doesn't want to see MC right now and not interested in reading self-help books with me. She still denies any affair. So, I'll read them myself, and I'm seeing a therapist this week by myself. I guess worst case scenario is, if she does bail on me, I'll make a perfect guy for the next relationship. I'm pretty much past the pouting stage, and I'm starting to get mad. I'm really trying not to let my heart harden. I've been to a therapist a couple of times now, and spoken to some wise counsel about my situation. After all my sulking, pouting, and crying, I learned it's not all my fault like she believes. She essentially states our entire 13 years of marriage I have not met her expectations and thus shut me down completely of any love, affection, or meaningful communication. Some of that is true. I do own what could do better and repent it. I can be a better father, husband, etc. I am human and less than perfect, and I'm working on me. She makes it sound like I've been mentally gone the whole time. My wife is very discontent right now and still full of anger and on the easiest target. Anger likely built up from a tough childhood, filled with infidelity and divorce. I'm not sure where she expected to be at this stage of her life, but she's not liking it. She'd rather go out and have a good time with friends, or God forbid another man, than be at home with me. I fell short in many areas, but for her to blame everything on me is not okay. Did I mention she hasn't worn her wedding ring in a month? Sometimes she'll wear a piece of costume jewelry on her ring finger. That's it. Really. She still refuses to seek professional advice. She's running from the issues right now, and I truly think it's a matter of time before she leaves. I made a huge mistake in the first few years of our marriage. My wife confessed one day that she made out with a coworker and basically had AE. I never dug deeper so see if more happened. She was very repentant and sincere, so I forgave. My mistake is I never had us to go counseling to address why that happened. Now here we are. I've done some phone snooping and nothing for now, but I think she may have an app on her phone to text, and it does not record. And no wedding rings really concern me. Just got back from a week's vacation with my family. Mind you, this was planned before my wife went nuclear shutdown. I know what some of you may say, but I couldn't disappoint my kiddos. I had a good time with them. It was like I was just a donator and a roommate. No bonding in 6 weeks with no end in sight. She put on a fake face and fake personality. Every ducking time we were alone in rooms, she would leave within seconds. She knows I won't bring up the crap or get off the pot speech. I guess I have to write a letter since she avoids me like kryptonite. I have had hope she would see she has a good life, but my hope is dwindling as fast as the equity in her $50K car. Yes, I bought her a car 2 months before the meltdown. I'm my own worst enemy, I know. I need 180 her. It's amazing the power one woman can have over your heart and mind. She was in a less than desirable mood today, ducking horrible, and I finally had enough and called her on it. I know, not 180, but I'm sick of walking on eggshells while being treated like crap. She tells me she sees me being a great dad, but says I don't give her any attention. I went off how it's hard to give attention and affection to while acting like I don't exist. I'm less convinced that she's having an affair, but more of a selfish discontent crisis. Anyway, I controlled the conversation and told her I own my issues, but she has done nothing. I told her she's running from the problem by doing everything she can not to be home. For once she didn't disagree. She said there is no one else, still not totally convinced, but she acknowledged she does not want a divorce and admitted she may need some antidepressants. Small victory in a huge war. Via R is in hand. We've had a couple of talks recently, brought up by her, and I feel like we've accomplished a lot. She has agreed to see a counselor and maybe try some antidepressant meds. She has also been much more intimate with me and has told me many times she loves me and wants us to work. I've been monitoring the cell texts and calls, nothing out of the ordinary. The VAR has revealed nothing to alert another man. Thank God. I was worried what I would hear, and her cell phone does not have the app. She may not have been in an active affair, but is ripe for one. Not out of the woods yet. Still trying to be my best so she can be her best. Almost 2 months later. Long story short, I stumbled upon a cell phone number and did some research. Hundreds of minutes talked and hundreds of texts to an old boyfriend. Married with 3 kids, mind you. Then I found the hard stuff. Private Facebook messages back and forth full of filth and lust between the two of them. People around me were all right the entire time. So, since I found this, I've confronted. She said I'm sorry but has no remorse. She's sorry for getting caught. She will not seek counseling of my choice, and when asked about nuking the affair, I was told, I've given my heart to another man. I can't just undo that. I've already filed for D, and she was served 2 days ago. Maybe now she can understand that no longer will I be walked on, and she has 6 months until our D is final to come to me with true, God-centered repentance. Just don't see it happening anytime soon. Thanks all of you for your insight. Unfortunately, my awesome kids and I have to suffer for her selfishness. Though she admits an affair, she still communicates with the OM and tells our friends half-truths of how we got here. Basically, she tells everyone I failed to meet her emotional needs for many years, so she has met someone else. She too gutless to even use the term affair and blame shifts on me. Hence why it took me a total of 10 days after discovering the affair to file and have her served. Maybe one day, this wrong will be made right. But this purgatory I'm living in is a nightmare. As soon as I blew up my wife's affair, the OM left his wife and 3 kids. He's filed for D like I have. Now my STBXW and the OM can live happily ever after. For a little bit, anyway, until the relationship implodes. His wife knows, but it's a moot point right now. Regarding communication, it's all business right now. No more relationship, just kids and mediation logistics. I only slept on the couch once. As of now, I'm at my parents' during my work week. On my days off, I stay in our house and she leaves. It works for now until we figure out if we're going sell or not. The messages I discovered were about 1 hour old when I found them. They were as fresh as the morning air. The idea of the Christian women thing fell by the wayside. At one time, my wife had good morals and values. Many reasons caused for her demise, but even so, I never was tempted to cheat, yet she was and did. She has a moral character flaw that only she can repair. At this time, she wants zero to do with religion, the church, or anyone telling her what to do. I failed in many areas as a husband. I worked long hours, at night, overtime, etc., to provide a comfortable house, so my wife never had worked full time. She was able to stay home with the kids. Was I tired when I came home? Yes. I'm not a super social guy and didn't always want to go out. I'm a homebody. I could be more romantic and thoughtful. I know this. But at no point did I make her feel unloved. I always showered with compliments and gave her freedoms and liberty to spend pretty much when she wanted, within limits. She encouraged the overtime, yet I think it was part of our marital downfall. She is very materialistic, and that's partly my fault for fostering that lifestyle. It won't happen in my next relationship. I'm human, complacent, and less than perfect, but she has been discontented for many years. Nothing was ever good enough for her. Can my marriage be saved? God only knows. What I know is when I inquired about reconciliation, she said she is in love with another man and can't just undo that. She also refuses going the MC of my choice. Oh, the big one. Remorse. She's sorry, but not remorseful. So, at this point my marriage is over. Maybe one day she'll realize how good she really had it. Someone on here said for me to be wary and careful if, when she comes crawling back. Also, to not get her pregnant. As of now, she is head over heels for the OM. There will no pregnancy on mine because I've been fixed. If she gets knocked up, it won't be mine. She is a long way from trying to fix things. Even if she was, my STBXW is very broken and only she can fix herself. We're nowhere close to reconciling anything. Thus, the divorce will continue. She loves someone else, and that's not me. My entire family and friends know, and so does her family and friends. Here's the problem. There is a lack of accountability on her side. Though they know my side, they seem to feel sorry for her more than their maid. They don't condone what she did, but, being her mother cheated on her dad and her dad has multiple marriages under his belt, I'm preaching to the choir. I will continue to tell people the truth. On the other hand, I don't want her back and need my mediation to be as smooth as possible. There's a balancing act here I need to be careful how I handle. Any thoughts? I really want to mediate this as soon as possible so I can get my own place, move on with my life, and teach my kids what the definition of commitment really is. I have several pages of hard evidence of my STBXW's affair saved just in case some of the people and blame shifters continue to think that her cheating was my fault. Exposing that will be interesting. But I also don't want to get sued for defamation of character, even though it's true. You're right with everything you said. I don't think our marriage would ever be the same if she came back. Too much damage to repair. I don't know. Can anyone tell me the emotional, mental phases an adulteress goes through? I've already experienced blame, but I noticed when I stopped by the house today, there was a bunch of new microbrews in my fridge. Why is she buying me stuff when I'm divorcing her? I hardly speak to her, and she still sees the OM? There's guilt set in this early. I'm going to drink the beer she bought, but she's already been served her D papers. That ship has sailed, and doing pretty well with detachment. The problem is compounded when kids are in the mix. I have to see the STBXW at games, and sometimes her parents, who feel sorry for her, sucks. She knows she made a fatal error in our marriage, but is an expert at rewriting our marital history. I check our phone logs, and she still talk and text them throughout the day. I'm betting her family and close friends don't know that. She was spoiled as a child, due to her mom abandoning her family for another man. Her dad smothered them materially and coddled them, saying they could nothing wrong. Rarely any consequences for behavior. All that translates to now. This weekend I'm separating our phone plan. About half year later, my saga has essentially concluded. Divorce is essentially done, just waiting for the courts to file away our judgment. Not a fair deal in the divorce. Thank God she works full time. Big thing I'm dealing with now is my 9-year-old. My ex recently told her about her relationship and that the piece of crap OM will be around a lot more. This piece of crap is the guy she cheated on me with, and they are continuing their relationship and felt all kids needed to know. My kids have met piece of crap on several occasions, but was introduced as mommy's friend from college. So, I'm fielding questions from my 9-year on why mommy has a boyfriend. When are they getting married? Will she have step-siblings, etc.? A lot of stress for a kid to have. My thoughts are the only reason they are telling the kids is so they can spend more time together and not worry about the kids noticing. Selfish. My other continuing issue is mutual friends. As fast as she could, she wanted several friends to tell them she only had an emotional affair, and when I found out and I just left her and wouldn't give her second chance. Half-truths. But I'm tired having to explain myself. I wish she would just own her crap. She never tells her friends she had a physical affair from the beginning, and never says she fell out of love with me and in love with another man. Maybe I should just get over it and move on. Still irritating. Good news is I've been very good friends with the piece of crap ex-wife. This friendship drives my ex up a wall. She had the audacity to tell me my friendship with her is inappropriate. What the duck? I laughed at that. My ex is such a narcissistic woman. She truly believes I pushes in the arms of another man, and she is justified in her behavior. Matters little now. She's no longer my wife. I've commented already the only reason I have a friendship with the Oxwell is because she and her boyfriend cheated. She ignores it and says, we all contributed to the dissolution of our marriage. Narcissist. I could totally see myself dating her. She's beautiful, loyal, and is financially independent from her ex. We've actually discussed the possibility of a relationship more than friends, but we're both set on making sure our respective kids get through this. For the meantime, we will continue to be close, but have boundaries set. One of my biggest challenges is sticking to my boundaries I set. By nature, I'm a peacemaker, and when conflict arises, I like to solve it and move on. I never hold grudges. The ex, on the other hand, is the polar opposite. She loves a good argument and can hold a grudge like no other. Up until a few weeks ago, she would constantly text me asking if I'm communicating with the Oxwell and why, and trying to fill my head with poison that the Oxwell was toxic, caused her husband to leave, etc. I would answer her, just keep things civil. I stopped that a few weeks ago. I look back and it's crazy talk. Both my ex and her boyfriend say he left his wife because he was unhappy, not because of another woman, my wife at the time. Classic game of narcissistic blame shifting. My therapist told me the other man's ex-wife has the right to be and inflict as much conflict as she wants so long as the kids' needs are met. The term unhappiness seems to be a constant phrase used with cheaters. My ex already told my 9-year-old daughter she has a boyfriend. I also have a 6-year-old son who doesn't know yet. I agree they need to know, but at these ages is way too young. My kids are still dealing with the divorce. Adding the stress mommy's new boyfriend on a child is unfair. My ex should be smart enough to hold off parading her boyfriend in front of my kids until they are emotionally ready. The only reason she told my kid was so she can see him more often, in front of the kids, and not worry. Total selfish motive. Story 2. Married to husband almost 18 years. 1 child. We are both in our early 40s. Last night we started to get into a heated argument. I decided and have always said I will not argue in front of my son. I told my husband I would go on the deck to talk, but he did not follow. So, I decided to leave the home and go for a ride. Not far from home, I decided to turn back and pack some items of clothes for the night, as I could not foresee me coming home that night due to the arguing. My husband watched me leave the home and not once asked me to stay and talk. Not once attempted to have me stay. But 5 minutes after leaving, he decides to call my phone. Me being hurt, he did not even try to stop me. I ignored his calls. He called twice. I spent the remainder of the night in an unknown location to him, and not once did he attempt to text me, call me to see if I was okay. He says his attempts were the 2 phone calls 5 minutes after I left. I told him that my feelings are so hurt, and that by him not calling is a good indicator of him not loving me. He says I'm overreacting. I for one know if my husband had left angry and did not return for 8 hours, I would have attempted to contact him somehow through the night just to make sure he was okay. I have never left the home for the night ever, so this was huge. So, if you were in my shoes, would you be hurt that your other half didn't even attempt to locate you or see if you were okay? Please be honest. This is the first major fight we have had in years, but over the last few weeks the tension had been building and I had left for shorter periods because once again I did not want to fight in front of our son. The straw that broke the camel's back was his lack of consideration for my feelings lately. He purposely books a trip 4 hours away to spend time with new friends I don't personally know without even consulting with me. He said, I knew you would be mad, but I did it anyway. I did text my son numerous times throughout the early evening telling him I was fine and not to worry. He is a teenager, so the message was easily received. We are so far apart on this. I feel so hurt. He feels so right. The only reason I texted my son was because he texted me first. I knew he was worried by his texts, so I responded to put his mind at ease. As far as MC, no, we haven't. Things have been very bad lately. Honestly, I think he is going through a midlife crisis. He bought a new car. He's lost a ton of weight. Our life is boring. I'm the reason he's not happy, etc. I have been blown away by his change in character. I grew up in a household where my dad and mom fought all the time in the home, not directly in front of me, but in another room loud enough that I could hear every word. I'm sure they didn't think I heard them either. I would cry myself to bed with worry so many nights. I really do believe that left a very large scar on my heart. I swore I would never do this to my son. My husband has known this from the time we first dated because I spoke with him about it. I have always said that it is something that I feel very strongly about. Leaving isn't about playing a game or hiding our fight from our son. Just a decision to not allow my son to hear us say a billion bad things about each other in front of him. Even at the point when the argument was getting very bad and very loud, my son was in the doorway blowing a whistle and crying, telling us to stop. I don't think it is helpful to my son at all. Call it control, or whatever you want, but that is just the choice I have made. My son has seen us argue about small things around the house, etc., but never to this magnitude or intensity. So, I believe there are some things he need not witness. Shaggy. No game here. When I walked out with suitcase in hand, my husband was laying on the couch looking straight at me. He didn't even lift a finger to say please stop. So, I really didn't think his phone call please was genuine. Just a reaction to the fact that my son was upset and wanted me home. Let me say again, I have never ever left the home with a suitcase or left for the night. This was huge for us. Synthetic. Not so sure I can agree with you there, but that's okay. My husband is back to his regular routine. No sign of hurt from what I can see. He is back to thinking about things that don't matter. Me, on the other hand, I am still crying and upset about much of what he had said to me. I'm having a hard time even kissing my husband when he approaches me because of what he said to me. So, I don't want to say that I'm hurting more than him, but if you are looking at just the facts, it sure appears to me that this has affected me more. In hindsight, I do agree perhaps I should have sucked it up, stopped the fighting, and went to bed until we could talk privately and not left, but I don't think I could have done that. I had already been sitting on speaking with him for a few days, and I could no longer not talk to him. Should I have come home after I calmed down that night? Probably. But I never did calm down. I cried all night long. I still don't regret not fighting in front of my son. That's just my personal decision. The next day we did spend almost the full day outside talking alone without my son around. Time will tell if I can move on and forgive. My husband said he didn't know I was texting my son. I don't see my actions as controlling, just asking for consideration, just as I give him before planning things. I've never once said you can't go out or can't make new friends. Never once did I say, I don't want to talk to you. I am the only one in the relationship that expresses their feelings. I just didn't want to do it in front of my son. I offered to go outside, but he didn't want. He wanted to continue in front of my crying son. It had nothing to do with wanting to be in the house with him per se. It was that I knew if I stayed, the fighting would continue and escalate in front of my child. So sorry for making the parental decision. Our relationship desperately needs help with communication. I readily talk openly about my feelings, and my husband does not, even when I beg him to do so. So, you were right, we need to work on that. My hopes that if we are on the deck, He will not hear those spoken words. I know he was still upset we were out there arguing the next day, but at least he didn't hear everything we said. Honestly, I feel like crap about the whole weekend, but some of what he said to me has me rethinking the whole relationship. How does one forgive and forget all the hurtful words that were spoken? I already feel like a piece of crap. Half a year later, I was a virgin when we married. I thought he was too until recently. I developed an excruciating rash, and while I'm still waiting on test results, the doctor is pretty certain it's herpes. And it appears the antivirals he prescribed are starting to work, so I think I know in my heart as well I have it. How could this be? We have only been with one another. Well, after questioning my husband heavily, he finally confessed he wasn't a virgin prior to marriage. He had been with at least half a dozen girls. He says he has been faithful through our marriage, but I don't even know that I can trust those words. Our marriage has not been without struggle, almost separating 3 years ago. Our physical life is infrequent. He has a history of lying to me, but never did I think I would ever hear that he had been with another woman. I feel like a fool, like I was played throughout our marriage. I'm running different things in my head and thinking how could he have sat there while I would say certain things and not confess. He had to be laughing inside. I feel like those first moments of intimacy between us were a lie. I believed we were learning together, and that was so far from the truth. I feel so betrayed and angry I could burst. I don't know that I can forgive him for one more lie. I feel disgusting and think even if I did leave him, who the hell would want a woman with herpes? I'm not even sure he will touch me again once my ulcers have healed. He says he didn't tell me because he thought I would have left him prior to marriage. And after marriage he felt he didn't need to. Where do I go from here?